All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is June 7th, 2019. My name is John Bramble. I work at the Mid-Continental region, and I'm here at the University of Utah. I'm the facilitator for this meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and get this program started. So today, this is one of the NNLM Research Data Management webinar series. The series is a collaborative bi-monthly series intended to increase awareness of RDM topics and resources. I'm here with Donna Ziegenfuss, who is going to be presenting on using data for decision-making and environmental scan case study. She has a lot to cover, and so she showed me this tool a couple weeks ago. It's really great. Before we get going, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Donna. She's an associate librarian in the faculty services at the University of Utah. She also recently joined our program, the Mid-Continental Region program, just a few months ago, and she is our new data science coordinator. She received her BS in biology and medical terminology from Minersville University, got her MS in applied technology and instructional design from Chestnut Hill College, and her EDD in academic leadership higher education from Widener University. All of these places are located in Pennsylvania. Donna brings over 10 years of experience working in academic libraries, 12 years of experience in instructional design and teaching in traditional hybrid and online formats, and 15 years of experience working in the area of faculty and professional development. So when she agreed to work for our program, you can imagine how thrilled I was, and everybody who gets to work with her are reporting the exact same thing. So Donna, I am going to turn it over to you. But before I do, I will be monitoring the chat box. And so if you have a question for Donna, just send it to all participants, and then I will alert Donna. I'll try and maybe answer some of the questions, but Donna might be the best person to answer other questions. So type your questions in, and we'll see if we can't get those answered. So Donna, take it away.
Hello, thanks, John. Thanks, everyone, for attending the webinar today about getting started with using data. I hope by the end of the session you'll be able to see how a purpose, in this case, using an environmental scan case study can be used to use data for decision making. I'm going to talk a little bit about some tools and a little bit about the environmental scan process. Okay. So for outcomes today, I'm going to describe the process of planning and conducting an environmental scan. I'm going to identify and use some existing data sources and talk about how to conduct an environmental scan. And I'm going to talk about a few tools that I use for this environmental scan, but the one I'm going to really focus on today is called Voyant-Tools, and it's a free tool. And hopefully by the end we'll have some time that I can do a live demo a little bit. At the end of the session, you won't be experts in using this tool by any means. I've been working with it for about 2 months, but I hope you'll be more comfortable in thinking about exploring data and data that's already available out there on the web that you can use to help make decisions and for evaluation and assessment of programs. So the environmental scan process in the literature is very all over the place. So for example, I've seen articles and references related to a 4-step process and all the way up to a 7-step process. But I really like this definition by Wilburn Vanderpool and Knight, who wrote an article about using environmental scanning in public health, in that decision makers use environmental scans to collect, organize, and analyze data on their assets and shortcomings in external and internal environments to guide strategic planning and decision making. Usually in an environmental scan process, it could include what's called a pest analysis, which is usually on an external environment that looks at political factors that might be impacting decision-making or what's happening in your context, economic, as well as social and technological. A SWOT analysis is also commonly used as part of an environmental scan process, and that looks at both the internal context and the external context. It's important to note that this process is usually conducted by a team and usually goes on for possibly a year or 2 years. This is a little bit different than my case study. I've only been with NNLM for a few months, so my scan has been about 2 months, and I am not doing this as part of a collaborative team, but I'm doing it alone because I came to this position with not a very strong data science background, but I have a qualitative research background and a librarian background where I use data all the time. And so I had a lot of gaps and to analyze and to look at to see what was out there to get a true analysis of the environment that I want to look at. Why would you use an environmental scan? So first of all, what is it? So it's kind of bringing together multiple facets of an issue or problem, collecting data in multiple ways, qualitative data and quantitative data. It's not really a scholarly undertaking, although I did do a lit review as part of mine, and most of the scans that I've explored have also used literature reviews as part of their environmental scan process. But it involves a variety of different data sources, perspectives from different stakeholders, and using internal and external sources. The purpose is intentional, and it's usually to explore a problem so that you can find a solution to that problem or improve a process. It's also very important that environmental scans are linked to the mission goals and strategic plan of an organization. So when I did my scan, I considered the NLM and the NNLM priorities as I was working on my scan as well. Although I collected a lot of data, and every type of environmental scan does collect a lot of data, it's really only one of the factors that comes into this. It's important to think about what you're collecting and what measurements you're going to need to achieve your purpose and goals of your environmental scan. And I always like to bring in this quote from the 1960s that was originally attributed to Albert Einstein, but is actually William Bruce Cameron's quote. Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. So if you think more broadly about not just numbers and data, but what other types of data can you use that might be helpful in finding a decision, making a decision. In the Wilburn, Vanderpool, and Knight article, they use 7 steps of environmental scan, and I would highly recommend this article if you're interested in the environmental scanning process of this presentation. It's laid out in steps in the article. They have a timeline. It's very detailed. But if I'll just go through these steps very quickly to give you an idea about what the scan entails. So first, you would pull together a team. It's usually done as a collaborative process. Decide on why you're doing the scan, what the purpose is, what you hope the outcomes are going to be. Usually it's a very focused area and has a specific purpose for doing an environmental scan. So we're not just, I wasn't just out there doing an environmental scan on data science. I was specifically looking, in my case, for information to help me make decisions about professional development for librarians related to data science. So I had a much more focused area than just what is data science. You also create and adhere to a timeline and set goals. So the timeline is really important because you do collect a lot of data, and it's helpful when you're working in a team to have that all articulated in your process. Determine information to be collected. So what type of sources, data sources are you going to collect? What type of perspectives need to be included in this environmental scan? Step 5, to engage stakeholders and opinions in the process. In my case, I have not included the step 5 yet in my process. I'm really only doing the first 4 steps. So I'm working on creating an online resource that will help librarians at different levels of expertise and comfort figure out how they can work with data. So I want to create a basic resource based on the data, and then I'm going to engage stakeholders in using the resource, and that's when I'll engage in the opinions of the stakeholders. Step 6 would be to analyze and synthesize results from the scan into some type of summary and report. And I hope this presentation will be a little bit of an introduction to what I'm going to be doing. So I also am working on a report, but this will be give me a way to kind of give a little bit of my findings. And then it's important to disseminate those results and conclusions to stakeholders, especially for people that you've involved in the environmental scanning process. So for mine, I actually had 6 steps. So I identified my problem. I conducted what I called a situational analysis, looking at existing data and identifying my priorities, and those changed as I went through this environmental scanning process. For example, in the beginning, my purpose was to develop a toolbox for librarians to help them engage in data science topics. And when I started to do my situational analysis, I found that there were a gazillion toolboxes already out there, so I really had to change gears on what I was anticipating my purpose would be. I analyzed and synthesized data, mostly qualitative data, and we'll get to that later in the presentation. And I explored some preliminary solutions for my problem, and I used that as a focus when I was collecting my data. Eventually, I will create a website, which I'm going to use some rapid instructional design strategies to put out a product and then gather feedback and make adjustments, as opposed to doing a year-long research project and then creating a resource. So I'd like to have some interaction with a community around what that design looks like and make adjustments on the fly. Okay. So I started with identify the problem, big data, data science, small data, oh my. And what I found is that there are a lot of different ideas of what data science really is. Are we talking big data or little data? It made it really hard for me to think about even where to start. In this case, the data science can be defined by disciplines such as math, statistics, computer science, or business. It can also be associated with skills, coding, stats, programming, graphic design. And one of the models even involves hacking skills as a skill for data science. So once I started to dig into this topic, it was a much bigger and complex topic than I anticipated. One way to look at data is by the 4 V's, and this is a model that Lisa Federer uses in she has a great presentation out on the web. If you Google Data Science 101 and Lisa Federer, you'll find her presentation gives an overview of big data. And these 4 V's, volume, variety, velocity, and veracity, are ways to think about big data. But what I really found was a lot of information related to big data that's out there, but not as much related to little data and how to kind of dip your toes into the data world and get comfortable with using data. To do my analysis, I collected data from 8 different places. I looked at job postings of data librarians, also data scientists, and also kind of hybrid positions where I found some positions where they were looking for a librarian to do some data analysis and visualization, but also to do digital scholarship or assessment or scholarly communication. So I collected job postings from 3 different sets of jobs, 15 postings on each, so I had about 45 postings that I did an analysis on. I also looked at post-data related webinar transcripts. So through NNLM and through other places externally, there have been webinars about data at different levels, and the transcripts are available publicly, so you can download those transcripts and analyze those transcripts, and I also did that. I also looked at NNLM's existing resources, and they have a website which is their RD3 website, which is just like a treasure trove of resources for data science. And once I got to this stage of my research, I realized that there's so many resources already that are out there that I think that my contribution to this area of data science could be to help organize the resources in a way that people at different levels of data expertise would be able to find and use the data. I also looked at a lot of websites and organizations that are out there available on the web, and how I might, I took some data off of those websites that I used for analysis, especially off of their about the organizations and what the organizations are helping to do. I also looked at online course descriptions. So there are a lot of online courses, and I just attended a webinar earlier this week that said I think there were 146 different courses and options out there, programs available for data science, and there are a lot. I enrolled in some MOOCs as part of this research, trying to find information about what's out there already. I also found some interesting online interviews and transcripts of those interviews from data science experts through TED Talks, through NNLM, and through other organizations. I also did some scholarly article analysis by putting scholarly articles through this Voyant-Tools analysis just to look for themes and words available in those articles. And I did some social media capture. So I use a tool called NVivo for qualitative research, and they have a tool that's part of that suite called NCapture, which allows you to go out onto Chrome and capture Twitter feeds and Facebook so that you can pull that in and do analysis. I was actually working with a public health faculty member at the University of Utah who was looking at the issue of vaccinations and anti-vaxxers through social media. So he came to see me and he wanted to use this tool so that he could capture some data for his graduate students to do research on. So I used Voyant-Tools as my preliminary tool, and I'll show you what that looks like. I also took what I learned from the Voyant-Tools and put that into NVivo, which gave me a little more deeper analysis of the text where I could do some manual coding and look at word phrases. And then I used Excel in both cases. So I did some data cleaning from the transcripts that I took offline before I put them into Voyant. So for example, transcripts, when you go to YouTube and you click and download the transcript, it puts the time stamps in there. So in Excel, I could dump that data into Excel and really quickly get rid of all those timestamps off of there so that I could just analyze the data. I did not do a systematic review of resources. I looked for resources in many different places in different ways, and I found resources that I thought were relevant to my topic in order to develop this professional development roadmap, which I'm calling a roadmap now as opposed to a toolbox. This is what, these are some parts of Voyant, and I'll actually show you what the actual screen looks like. But this is a tool that I've heard about before and I've used a little bit, but lately I have seen it used more. I was just at the LOEX conference a few weeks ago, and there was a group from Canada, from McGill University, that used this tool to help students do literature reviews, to look at themes and words within individual articles, which was really interesting. So they were using it as a teaching tool for working with students. So it was designed by Stefan Sinclair and Jeffrey Rockwell, who are in Canada, and Catherine Hans and Sandy, and I'm not sure how to say her last name, Herveau, from McGill. They did the LOEX conference, and thank you. I'd like to send out a thank you to them for kind of inspiring me to do this presentation. There's really only 3 steps to this product. You upload your file, you click upload, and you can upload one file or multiple files. And then once your file appears in the dashboard, there are tools where you can explore settings and view the data in different ways and make changes to the data. And then you can also download data, so you can download ping files of graphics that you make. This is what a dashboard looks like, and at the end we'll actually go in and I'll show you how this works. But it has 5 different components to the dashboard. There's also a really awesome help feature. So if you click on the question mark, they have done a really good job in the resources that you can use to figure out how to use this tool. But all I did was upload some files here, and this is what I got. So I didn't have to do any other additional analysis. Once it's in here, I can look at the word cloud. I can change the number of words in the word cloud. I can look at the text. I can add in this toolbox here. I can add in words that I want to search for, phrases I want to search for, and these little color bars are so there's 2, 4, 5 different files here that I uploaded, and you can click on each one and see just that file. This is a trends, which shows you where that word, the most common words, appear within the text. And this was really interesting to look at the distribution of the words within the text. Was it pretty much uniform throughout, or were there spikes in where that happened? Down here on the bottom left are where you can look at frequent words, and you can look at individual articles and frequent words. And I've downloaded a lot of this information to put into Excel and into my NVivo. Over here on the bottom right is a feature. You could do bubble lines and just look at words. But I like this co-locate feature, which shows you how the data actually go together. Here's 3 examples of word clouds that I made from the job descriptions. So you'll see that data is the main word in the data librarian and data scientist job descriptions. It's not a surprise. And you can, in the word cloud feature, actually take the word data and remove that from the word cloud so that you can see other words. The job description for what I'm calling a hybrid librarian, which involves some data work, some digital scholarship work, or some assessment, was a little bit different, but these would be examples of word clouds that you could take right out of the software. I also took the data into NVivo and did some more manual coding, looking for themes, and I really came out with 5 themes: seeing connections, exploration, enculturation, emerging identities, and making contributions. And I could see these themes throughout all the different data sets that I was looking at. But I used some quotes from some interviews that were done through NNLM after a data management capstone project. So they interviewed both instructors and participants. And these are some quotes that kind of are examples of that theme. So for example, enculturation, I came to be a data librarian. It was actually kind of a natural extension of what I was already doing. It's an area where the deeper that you get in, you start to see more and more possibilities open up in ways that you can expand your base of knowledge. So there's some interesting ways that you can pull quotes out to look at the themes and the trends that emerge from your data. So some of my preliminary findings, it was really hard for me to get started since I'm not a data scientist. It was very overwhelming. And a lot of the big science, the big data work was very confusing for me. It was also confusing in the different definitions of what those data science roles are. And as a librarian that does a lot of assessment, I see that as data science work. But I didn't really find that in the data science literature. I also saw a gap in the literature related to sharing qualitative data. I did find some qualitative data repositories, which were kind of hidden, a few in the UK and in Europe, and that seems to be an area that would be of interest to pursue. So these are the themes: seeing connections, which is about kind of developing an awareness of what you're currently doing and what you could do, or if you have an interest in data, how you might think about connecting data to your current job. Exploration, providing a place for experiment and exploring, and I'm hoping that that's what this Voyant tool, once I show this to you, will motivate you to go out and do some experimenting and exploring. And the enculturation piece, it's not just about doing professional development for librarians to teach them how to code, do Python, and how to do R, but to also think about how to cast a wider net around data into assessment communities, metadata communities, teaching communities. So how can we use, how can we teach data to graduate students and undergraduate students, data literacy? How can we use these same data strategies and tools when we're doing library assessment at our institutions? The emerging identities were really interesting to look at how people see where they fit into this data science world, and then also this making a contribution. People want to help other people to learn how to use data, and I think that this might become a critical piece to the data roadmap that I want to create as part of the next steps for my research. So I'm going to use these themes and insights to look at a scaffolded or a leveled professional development resource for librarians. So if you think about leveling up, like what do beginning data librarians need to know? Maybe you're just interested in data. What are some good resources just to learn about data? You really don't want to go to the level of programming, but you're interested. How can you help someone with a data management plan without getting too involved? So a lot of the different levels, I think, will become very important from what I've seen in my own data. I also looked at how I'm aligning to the NLM goals and the NNLM priorities. So there is a data science priority in NNLM. And then there's also some goals in the National Library of Medicine about engaging users with data and also expanding and enhancing training in informatics and data science. So my next step is to use this rapid instructional design model to prototype ideas. I'm already working with a graphic designer here at the University of Utah to start working on the web page. We're going to create what we're calling a roadmap at different levels of data science so that you can jump into the level where you feel comfortable and learn a little bit more about it. I'll also be interviewing stakeholders. So for you who are attending this webinar today, I will be sending additional information out to you as I get some resources created, so that I would like some feedback if you're interested in providing feedback about how these resources might help us get into data science from the level of dipping your toe in and learning about it to a more involved level. And I'd also like to recruit some partners and collaborators who are interested in this concept of different perspectives of the science and creating a community of practice. So if you're interested, contact me. All right, so let's go into Voyant-Tools. John, do we have any questions before I move into this next step?
I was looking to see if Jane had a question, because there's a little question mark next to her name, but nobody's typing anything in, so we're good.
Okay. Well, would we want to take a few minutes here to stop to see if there are any questions? I was hoping to only do about a half hour, and I'm about 2 minutes ahead of schedule here.
Ooh, we have 2 minutes for questions.
Everyone will have questions after I use Voyant.
Yeah, just leave your personal cell phone number, and they can call you.
This is a really cool tool. So I've used this before as a quick scan because I used to use Wordle as my my word map software. And now there's some issues with Java and on that website. So I've been looking for new tools, and I came across this tool. And then I've been seeing it used in different places and used in different ways, which I think is really exciting. All right, so maybe I'll just go ahead and we can.
I do have a question. Are there any training videos out there in the YouTube university?
You know, I haven't. It's been easy enough to use that I've only used the question mark to answer my questions. I haven't even tried to go out and look for tutorials. That's how easy it is to use.
And the internal help feature is sufficient.
It's really robust, and I'll show you what that looks like when I get in there.
Cool. Great. I'll mute.
Okay. All right. So the website is voyant-tools.org. And John, if you want to put that into the chat, that would be great. And then you click upload, and I have some job descriptions here: a data and information visualization librarian, a data services librarian, a data services coordinator, and a data literacy librarian. I'm just going to select all of those, and I'm going to open them. And this is what I get. So it doesn't really take too much to do that. There is a, let me show you the help right off the bat. So this little question mark up here, you can click there. And we'll go to the help feature page. So these are all the guides and tools and topics. So it takes each tool individually and gives you some additional information. These are all the different presentations that you see of the data that you can go in and look at. It does look like there is some way that you can also do some back end. So if you are into coding, it looks like there is some ways that you can go in and customize what you're seeing here if you are a coder. But I am not a coder, so I like to use just the easy, what do we call these, WYSIWYG tools. Okay, so I have my, they call it a Cyrus tool, which is really just a word map, and I can increase the number of words in my word map. I can also look at more of a concept map feature on the main words and how they're connected to each other. I can just look at the individual tools, the words and how many times each of the words are used, which is really helpful in qualitative. We do that. This is called a frequency count. So we look for the number of words that are used most often. These little icons up here, this one will let you do a word stop. So I can edit the stop list and take words out of the word cloud if I wanted to do that, and then I would just confirm and those words would disappear from the word cloud so that I would see other words. This tool allows you to pick other tools. So there's corpus tools, and you can pick maps and charts, and I could make a second trend line chart over here, a scatter plot, so a word tree. So these are just, so if I select a word tree, then it will give me a word tree of data as opposed to the Cyrus, and I can go back here and go back to my Cyrus view. This little frame here shows you the number of files that I've uploaded, and say these are the words and how often they're used, but say I wanted to look at data management, a phrase, as opposed to just a word. Now it should be able to see where that appears within here. Oh, wait a second. I think it thinks I'm doing another word. I guess I have to spell it right, huh? All right. Let me just change the word. Well, let me go back and edit here. So it'll show me how many times that data and management actually occur together. This trend line over here, down here on the bottom right, there are 4 documents. It gives you your total words or your unique words. I can increase the number of words here. So here's my documents. I'm pretty slow here. It's my average words. I'm not seeing my, let's let this kind of catch up here. So you see up here where I put data management, it shows me that data management is used in 3 of my 4 job descriptions. And then I can click here and I can go to that document and see those words. Waiting for my 4 documents to load down here. I tried this before and it worked really well. Oh, here we go. So here's my 4 documents. It gives me the most frequent words across the whole corpus, all of the 4 documents together, but it also gives me it individually. This trends chart over here shows me all 4 documents, and it shows me that all 4 of the main words are used in all 4 of those documents. But I could look at just the data and information visualization job description, or I can look at the data services. So I can click, and as I click on these 4 documents down here, it will change what you see in the other components of the chart. So now I'm looking at just the data services coordinator position, and these are words that are used there in that document. I think also it is showing me relative frequencies as opposed to raw frequencies, and I can change that by here. I like to just see that what the numbers are as opposed to, so it's 3 times the word data appears here as opposed to a relative frequency.
Hey Donna, can I interrupt with a question?
Yep,
so Carol,
sure.
Observing that it appears that it is using Boolean logic for searching.
It is using Boolean logic, and if you click on the little question mark, it'll pop up with some suggestions on how you can search for those words within those areas. So it is using Boolean searching, yes.
Like the librarians put this in.
It's kind of cool. So this is the bubble line. It shows you where words appear together and how many words. I am not a quantitative person, so I usually change this correlation chart to something else. But it does give you correlation statistics. I don't know how accurate those are because I'm not a quantitative person. But I prefer to look at the co-locates, which shows that data and services appears 27 times together. The word data and research appears 25 times together. And then the other feature is that you can download. So you can download a URL of this whole page, but you can also export your visualizations as a PNG file. So I've done that quite a bit, where I just take a visualization of what I'm looking at. I can change the items down here in the words to include, instead of 5 or 10 most frequently used words, I can look at, I think it goes up to 50, if I'm correct, 59. So you can look at words there. So it's a really easy tool to use, since I've been working with it, I just keep looking for new and different ways to use it. I have used NVivo as a tool to help graduate students look across articles for their literature review and look for commonalities and differences in those articles. This would be a much easier tool to do that. I do think that a more robust tool like NVivo or Atlas TI would give you much more accurate results and also much more flexibility in what you could do. But I really like this tool because I only had 2 months to do my review. So I used this as a way to do a very quick review of all of the digital documents that I collected. So I put through transcripts through here, I put through job descriptions, I put through PDF, scholarly articles, and you can clean up those articles before you put them through, or you don't have to clean them up. For example, in my scholarly articles, I didn't clean them up and take out page numbers and a lot of that information. I just excluded them from stop. I used the stop list to get rid of some words that it repeated, excuse me, over and over again.
Carol has another question, which is, did you look for any type of consistency in the way the words or terms were defined by categorizing by definition consistency first, before grouping terms for the Voyant tool?
No, I did not. I grouped my sets of sources by what I was interested in learning about. So I want to see the difference in job descriptions between what a data librarian would do and what a data scientist or analysis is expected to do in a job description, because I know it's important to learn programming, and after actually doing this, it makes me want to learn R. So I would like to be able to do more corpus analysis using R, but I selected the files and put them into groups based on what I was trying to find out in my analysis and the purpose of my analysis, and then I brought them in groups. So in this case, these are just data librarian positions that are showing here, but I also did it by bringing in all of the data job descriptions to look across those 3 different groups to look for differences. I did reach a point where I tried to pull in too many scholarly articles at one time, and it kind of choked on that. So I'm sure that there's a limit to the amount of text that you can bring in. Any other questions there, John?
Let's see, am I muted? I'm unmuted. Okay, so Luz asks, where did this question go? Who actually uses Voyant? First time he's seen of this tool, and I think he sort of answered that.
Yeah.
On the website, it was designed for digital humanities students.
Correct, for looking at corpus of humanities text. Yes, yeah. which is what it was designed for. It's free, so there's no cost for this tool. It is a .org site, so I look at a lot of different tools. I've been looking at concept mapping tools, and I've been looking at Wordle, like word map tools, which are all different services. And what I like about this tool is it gives me a kind of a flexibility of what I could look at in one tool without having to go and put text here and then text there. But it is definitely more of a humanities tool. The presentation that I saw at LOEX, it was specifically librarians were using it to have students bring in some articles that they wanted to analyze, just to understand what the main themes were of the articles. For example, they used an example of bullying, articles about bullying, and they found some articles by the same author, and they wanted to look at the difference in those articles. Like, is this author writing the same thing in every article, or are they writing about different things? So they brought in different articles by the same author and looked at those articles across. So I think it has some potential to help, especially graduate students, look at, give them some ideas about trends in what those articles are, which might help them organize their articles for their literature review. I really do, oh, go ahead.
And then Luz wants to know about tutorial sites, but we talked about that earlier, and we had not explored that because the help files inside the tool are very, very good.
Yeah. So I went in to look at all the different types of tools that were available, like why would I want to use a Loom tool, and what's a Dreamscape tool, and all that information is all in their online help that's connected right in with the tool. So I really didn't need to, usually I go out to YouTube, and like with NVivo, I always go out to YouTube and look for YouTube videos if I forget how to do something or I want to use a tool that I normally don't use. But here, this seems pretty easy, that I really didn't have to go much further than this tool.
Yeah, so I was looking at the license on this, and it looks like you can get you can download it and get access to it through GitHub.
Yep,
and access to the code, which
and
is
you can put it on your institution. Yes,
yeah,
you can make your own instance of it. Yes.
It looks like there is a license under the GPL3 license, meaning gives some flexibility on what you do with the code if you like to muck around with that stuff.
Yeah. So in the directions, when I did go to the help, there were some areas where you could write code, so it gives you some ways that you can change things, and I think it's only in English. I did read that I think it's only in English, but they're working on multiple languages. Where did I find that information about? something that I was exploring gave me coding options on how to customize. So here's different languages. Oh, it is available in other languages.
Oh, neat.
But they're in the directions. When you go through the directions, it will give you some options for using coding to further customize what you're trying to do. I don't remember where I was.
That's very cool.
But it's a very neat tool. Any other questions?
I'm not reading any new questions.
See, that is so easy. We didn't even need an hour.
Yeah. So I mean, I was kind of eavesdropping in on a conversation with the National Training Office, and they're looking at putting a professional development topic together on using course feedback information. And it seems like you could upload all that course feedback, open text, qualitative data into a tool like this and see if there's anything that kind of teases out, so that you could use that as a way to make course improvement recommendations.
Correct. I also, this would also work for student course feedback that you receive from students' comments in your course. I have used NVivo and Excel for that in the past, to do an analysis and look for themes within my comments, student comments, for the courses that I teach. Any survey data that you can collect, so you can upload PDFs, Word files, and Excel spreadsheets. So I did take an Excel spreadsheet that I had a survey in with 2 open-ended questions, and I just copied the 2 columns of the open-ended questions into a separate Excel spreadsheet and uploaded that, which gave me data then that I could analyze in here. So if you don't get rid of the numbers, then it actually puts all the numbers in your text corpus as well, which was just kind of like a distraction for me. So I just copied the columns with the text and put that directly up into there. So any analysis of text, this would work for really well. And I think it's a very low-tech way, even though it's a tech tool, of kind of getting your feet wet with exploring your text to see what you could find in text. My assessment work has really piqued my interest for learning more about data science, higher level data science, more difficult data science, because I feel comfortable now using data for assessment. That I think a tool like this would be a great tool to engage librarians in collecting some data in their institutions, whether it's about their space, their library space, or about library services, and they could do some analysis in here and feel more comfortable with collecting data and analyzing data, and then be more willing to, instead of just put your toes in, to actually dive in, or to at least step into the water of data science.
So Donna, do you mind if I ask a poll of the folks that are here?
Yeah, go ahead.
And so you and I talked about turning this into a longer, possibly self-paced, maybe hybrid type course, like using Moodle. So the National Network of Librarians of Medicine does a lot of courses. So can I just poll people? Yes, no, not sure. Would you take the course that might be like 4 contact hours of a self-paced course covering this topic and learning this tool more in depth? If you would just enter in yes, no, not sure, or maybe, depends, only if Donna's teaching. Hold it. All right.
Yeah, I would like to combine this with some qualitative research analysis. So I did do a little bit of cleaning in Excel before this of some qualitative files. So that would be a way.
Yeah. So Carol, we're just you're typing in the chat box yes, that you would like to take a course like a longer course, self-paced course, hybrid course, no, or we'll I'd have to see, or maybe, or something like that.
Yeah. So I think some of those qualitative data skills could also be incorporated with this, since this is really more of a humanities tool. I have used this type of tool with an engineering project where I was working with an engineering faculty member, and she was collecting formative assessment data in her class, open-ended questions every 3 weeks about where students were, what issues they were having, and then we did a qualitative analysis on those comments that she received. So I think that there's a lot of use for this, and I think that this is kind of an area that I haven't found very much in the bigger data science world, because a lot of it is huge scientific data that's being collected, NASA data, NOAA data. I was just listening to one of the webinars that I found, and they were talking about an app that was developed about waves off of the coast. I'm not sure if it was California. I kind of came in the middle of it, where they were using NOAA data to tell surfers where the best place was to go and surf. So that type of data wouldn't work here, but definitely data that is more qualitative in nature.
That sounds like a Python project or an R project to do a live thing.
Yeah, I found a lot of instances of R in my research, and I've worked with bioinformatics faculty on grants and other projects that all use Python, so I use GitHub, but I think R, from what I've seen, would be, it has some more qualitative analysis capability in it that I would like to use.
Cool. All right, well, Donna, that was an excellent presentation. I feel like I learned a lot. I think I could get jump-started as a result of today's session. And I think you had some ending slides.
Oh, yeah. Let me go back here.
So while she's pulling that up, I just want to remind people that this is a session that we do every other month. The next session is August 15th. That's 1 p.m. Pacific time.
Sorry.
The topic is what is in a data story, understanding the basics of data storytelling. Kay Deeney, she's the Education Outreach Librarian there at the Pacific Southwest region, who's going to be leading that class. Registration information is up and ready. If you want to make sure you get a good seat, register now, and we'll make sure that they get you that information. And then there should be an evaluation.
We didn't get the code, though.
Yes, we have a plan. So we're going to send the code to people so that they can get their CE from MLA for today's session, but we did not get that in time. Yes, and we'll email it. Thanks, Liz. We'll email that to the email that you use to register for the course.
Yes, so all the participants, I will email you the link for the evaluation as well as where you can register. So this webinar has been approved by MLA for 1 credit, and it is up in the MLA catalog, but I have not received the link that you go to register for it yet.
Yeah. Oh, we do have another question, a couple questions. So Louisa wants to know what kind of files you can upload, and yes, PDF, docs, and Excel files can be uploaded.
Yes, they're the ones that I've tried so far, and they've all worked. But I have hit a limit, so I did try to put quite a few scholarly articles up there, and it kind of choked on me. So maybe I'll have to organize into categories and then go back and look at it together. I have been going back and forth between this and Excel and Vivo. So I take stuff out of here and then take it into another product and do some more data analysis. And Vivo is not a free product; it's very expensive. So this would be a great tool as an entry tool.
All right, so Cal, you might have to help me with this. When you ask, given the range of research conducted for this project, what simple few words would sum up your work or tagline on data science? We need a tagline.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It's unavoidable.
Let me think. So I think, so I took the individual words out of Voyant, and then I analyzed those words to look for themes. So it's kind of like a double analysis almost, because I wanted some themes that I could use in the development of my website and roadmap. But I think the words are research, data, application, services is really big. From all the documents that I looked at for data management services. Data management is another one. And then there's programming tools at the higher end. So when I did the data analysis of the job descriptions for data analysis, the words up there were like individual. They weren't used that often, but it was like machine learning, Python, R, Open Refine. So there were individual products that came out of those documents.
I think I interpreted the question a little differently. Carol, how did she do in answering your question? Oh no, she's still here. There's an uppercase Carol and a lowercase Carol. Which one? All right. So, Carol, if we did not answer your question, you have Donna.
Yes, email me.
Yep. And I guess we'll call it a day. Thank you very much, Donna. That was fantastic.
And thank you, everyone, for attending.
Yes, it was a good crowd.
Thank you. Okay, so I have to stop the recording, right? All right. I'm John. I can just stop the recording.